We've had some classes where one guy has made it or no guys have made it. Okay, that's how difficult it is. When people talk about SEALs and buds, blah, blah. But when you go through Delta Force selection, it's an individual effort. You're not with any group. You're all by yourself. You're expected to be able to go out by yourself, represent the unit and the United States government, okay, and speak to anybody at any level about tactical operations, strategic operations. They canvass the Marine Corps, Air Force, Army, everybody, right? Everybody that's eligible. Out of those, everybody they've canvassed, they only select 100 guys twice a year to try out.
Delta Force selection versus BUDS, all right? Or Delta Force selection and SEAL Team 6, whatever you guys want to call it. Since I started doing my reaction videos, I've been getting a lot of bickering back and forth. I noticed there's a lot of conversations being had about selection and the length of it, which is approximately 28 days for SFAS. Delta Force selection is approximately the same amount of time. However, BUDS is 6 months. And I've been seeing a lot of discussion, which guys, discussion and dialogue is always great. I love it, right? Because we can have different opinions. But what makes us men is the fact that we're able to sit and cordially speak to each other about our different takes, right? That's what it's all about. Doesn't mean that as a man I have to agree with you, just like it doesn't mean as a man you have to agree with me. So discourse is always great. But I wanted to hear what Dell has to say because he has a different take in which I also feel makes sense. All right, let's take a look.
Even try out.
To try out. My class, when I went through, my class, for whatever weird reason, had 110 guys. I'm not sure why we had 10 extra guys, but we had 10 extra guys. Of the 110 that started, 6 of us completed the course. Of the 6 that completed the course, 3 of us got selected. I was the youngest Delta operator ever at the time, at the age of 23, to get selected. The other 2 guys were 33. So think about that for a minute. We've had some classes where one guy has made it or no guys have made it. Okay, that's how difficult it is. When people talk about SEALs and buds and blah, blah.
Guys, so it's not uncommon for what he's saying right now. I've had buddies that's gone through Delta Force selection, and there's been instances where no one has gotten selected. And there's been instances where 1 or 2 dudes have gotten selected. Those guys know exactly what they're looking for, and if you're not it, they're not going to select you. Let's hear what he has to say as it relates to BUDS and their selection process.
Blah, blah. Let me tell you what the difference is between, yeah, you said it, right? I'm not going to say it, but, some of them are my friends. I don't want them beating me up either. But here's the difference, right, with Delta Force selection and, let's say, BUDS, for example. And you see it all the time, right? SEALs, they're all on the beach running around, and they're carrying boats and rolling around the sand, getting wet, and singing and yelling and hollering and crying, pissing and moaning, doing flutter kicks in the waves. And but they're doing it as what? As a group, right? And so when you're in a group, what can you do in a group? You can draw power, motivation, inspiration from the other.
Guys, is the entire BUD selection process done as a group? Let me know. That's something that I'm not sure about, all right? Is it done as an entire group as opposed to Special Forces Assessment Selection, SFAS? There's the first 2 weeks of it. It's an individual event, all right? The first 2 weeks you do your individual PT tests, your individual runs, your individual rucks. Like everything is done as an individual. Then you go into land nav, it's individual. And then the last week, the 3rd week, team week, that's when we come together as a group and we do things together. To his point, guys, there is power in having others around you to motivate you to want to do the right thing, to give you that extra oomph to get over whatever obstacles you're dealing with as it relates to selection. So there's a lot of truth to what Dell is saying right here.
Other guys, when your crank is dragging in the dirt, you're like, I've had enough, and you see Joe Snuffy over here that's worse than you, but he's hanging in there, you kind of get inspired to keep going on, right? You don't want to quit before he does.
Right.
But when you go through Delta Force selection, it's an individual.
Guys, I can attest to this. Doing team week at selection, we all have the moment of feeling sorry for ourselves. I've had that moment myself while I was going through selection. But looking to my left and to my right and seeing my buddy suck just as bad as I was sucking, that gave me what I needed to keep pushing. So he is 100% correct on that.
effort. You're not with any group. You're all by yourself. Every day, all day long, everything you do is by yourself. Moreover, you do not know the standards of performance, right? They don't tell you what they are. They give you the
What do
task.
you mean they don't tell you what they are?
You don't know what they are. For example, what they'll do is, they'll go, here's the task. They don't tell you when it ends.
What's an example task?
Okay, for land navigation, for example. Okay, so think of this: you're in the mountains of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, wherever, right? And
Sorry to hear
they're going
that.
to tell you, okay, today you're going to start at this point, and your next point, here's the grid coordinates for that. You have to navigate to that, and then you get to that next point, give you more grid coordinates. You go to the next point, the next point, next point, next point, and now you're walking through mountains, rucksack on your back. It's raining, it's snowing, it's freezing. You're tired because you're walking up and down mountains. You're full of mud and piss and vinegar, and you don't know when it's going to end.
Now, I think it's the same for not only Delta Selection, SFAS is like that, and I'm sure the SEALs do something similar, guys. Do they have land navigation and BUDS, and also or SQT? Do the SEALs do land nav as rigorous as we do on the Army side? Let me know in the comment section below, because I know Air Force, PJs, they do something pretty similar. But again, you don't know what the standard is. It's just a matter of putting it on your back and then walking for days on end, right? Let's keep watching.
And we asked, sir, how much time do I have? The automatic response, and I know this because I was a cadre a couple of times, was do the best you can. But sir, how much time do I have? Do the best you can. And then with a straight face, right? There's no encouragement. There's no discouragement. It's like you're talking to freaking robots, and
That's so bizarre. I've never heard anything like that
Yeah.
from the military.
yeah, there's no other place in the military that does that, right? It's just this organization. And so what does that?
So I would go as far as to say SFAS is also pretty similar, right? They don't give you any feedback. So, Delta Force does it. SFAS does it. I'm pretty sure the Air Force does it. MARSOC does it. And I'm pretty sure the SEALs team does it also, right? Let's keep watching.
that do to you? So every day you're going doing the best you can, right? Which means going balls to the walls every day, all day long, up and down these mountains. You don't know when it's going to end.
Do you know how long?
You don't.
Like no. But do you know after the fact, like if your length of time that you did it is the same as others, or does that vary too?
You don't know. You don't know anything. They don't tell you anything, right? So, and the reason you don't know anything is because here's what happens. So you're out there by yourself for a couple of weeks, all alone, every day, under pressure, under stress. You don't know what the standard of performance is, but you know you must be making the grade because you're still here. They haven't canned you yet. And so what happens is you physically start breaking down, okay, because you're pushing yourself as hard as you can because you want to make it. And then when your body starts to break down, the mind starts breaking down, right? So
I would say that's the biggest difference between Delta Force selection, SFAS selection, and that of BUDS, right? Yes, BUDS is 6 months long, but it's like you have a path that you have to travel, right? Like you know every day where you're at, what you're doing. You know you're gonna go do PT. You know you're gonna go do flutter kicks and all this other stuff they do. But at Delta Force selection and also at SFAS, you just, again, to his point, they just tell you do the best that you can. And as soon as you start trying to conserve your energy and not do the best that you can, cadre picks up on that and you're gone just like that. So you're forced every day for 28 plus days to just give it 100%. Little sleep, little food, right? And to his point, your body starts to decompose. And next thing you know, every day you're just getting slower and slower. And before you know it, you're either done with the selection or you get pulled.
And guess what? They're not breaking you down. You're breaking yourself down. They're going, here's the standard. Just do it. And you just do it and you break yourself down. And you can't blame them. You got to blame yourself. It's like, well, they just told me to do it. How hard I do it's up to me, right? And so what happens is your mind starts to go. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the guy that has no body left. Physically, he's done. Can he still motivate himself to perform anyways by himself? No inspiration, no motivation. He's not looking at Joe Snuffy over here, and getting motivation from that guy. He's all alone. He's in the woods by himself every day at night, in the rain.
Guys, that's the difference maker right there, right? Because I always say in the preparation videos that I make that selection is designed for the body to fail. It's just, you're going to get to that point where your body is not going to have anything left in the tank. But when it does, what's going to dictate whether you get selected or not is your ability to overcome what your body is telling you and still finding strength and motivation to keep pushing. That's what differentiates us from everyone else, right? When the body gives out, can you still perform? And a lot of guys can't.
And whether he succeeds or not is all on him. And this really has a psychological effect.
Oh, yeah.
A huge psychological effect. You're isolated, and you're looking for some type of encouragement from, the instructors, and they're just stone faced. Do the
How
best you
long
can.
are the days?
They can go all day, all night.
They go all day, all night.
Yeah, and it's like
Like, what was the longest session you had? 36 hours, something like that?
well, let me put it this way. I did at least 40 miles in one stretch. I can't tell you the numbers, the time.
With gear.
With all my stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And but I can't give the times because I would be giving away too much information. And but I've done 40 milers more than once, straight, nonstop through mountainous terrain, weather, everything else. So it is by far the hardest selection in the world because you're all alone. And this is where you really separate the wheat from the chaff. This is when you really get to see what a man's made out of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with them, guys. Delta Force selection is the hardest in the world, all right? Because, again, something about what they are training guys to do between Delta Force, SAS, like those guys, hands down, had the hardest, right? Let me know in the comment section below, guys. I know you guys are going to jump down there and say, hey, what about buds and all that? Guys, just because your selection process is 6 months long doesn't mean you're doing what these guys are doing. Hell, basic training in AIT, that's about 6 months long, right? Doesn't mean those guys are elite soldiers, right? I'm just saying, that's just my 2 cents as it relates to the topic that you guys have been discussing in the comments as it relates to buds and Delta Force and all these other selection process out there. Just because it's 6 months and it's long doesn't mean it's hard. All right, let's keep watching and wrap this video up.
I remember when it was one particular day.
But yeah, guys, I just wanted to play this clip because I thought he had some very important things to say in there as far as how the different entities run their selection process. You have one that's 28 days, you're by yourself and you're doing all these crazy tasks. And then you have one that's, 6 months, but you're in a group and you're doing all these different tasks, all right? Let me know which one you guys think is the hardest selection to go to. I'm leaning on the side of Delta Force, all right? Yeah, it's shorter than 6 months. So what? So is the SAS. Their selection is short also, right? But those guys are still the best in the world, all right? And they select from everyone, all right? So to say that just buds is 6 months, it's harder, I don't agree with that at all. All right, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, guys. Until next time, take care of yourself.